There is a truth that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. The most dangerous enemy you will ever face is not standing in front of you. It lives within you. It appears in the voice that tells you to delay for one more day, in the fear that makes you turn away from opportunity, in the anger that steals your clarity, and in the desire for approval that causes you to live according to the expectations of others. The most important battle is not fought in the outside world. It is fought every morning when you must choose between comfort and discipline, and every evening when you must choose between feeding your old habits and building a new version of yourself. A weak person is not necessarily someone who lacks strength. A weak person is someone who gives temporary emotions the power to control their life. They act only when they feel motivated. They persist only when conditions are favorable. And they believe in themselves only when others praise them. But emotions are like the weather. They change from hour to hour. And if you allow the weather to determine your direction, you will never reach the place you truly want to go. An untrained mind will always search for the easiest path, but tomorrow cannot change a person who refuses to change today. Every time you surrender to procrastination, you teach your mind that your words carry no weight. Every time you quit because you are tired, you strengthen the identity of someone who cannot be trusted. Every time you blame your circumstances, you place yourself in the position of someone who is controlled rather than someone who creates. True freedom does not begin when life becomes easier. It begins when you are no longer a slave to what happens inside you. You can still feel fear, but you do not allow fear to choose your direction. You can still feel anger, but you do not allow anger to decide your words. You can still feel exhausted, but you do not use exhaustion as an excuse to betray your purpose. Mastering yourself does not mean becoming emotionless. It means creating distance between emotion and action. Within that distance, you have the power to choose, and the choices you repeat will eventually become your destiny. Look directly at the person in the mirror, not to judge that person, but to accept responsibility. That person created most of the habits you live with today, and that person is also the only one capable of breaking them. Your life begins to change when you stop asking why everything is happening to you, and begin asking who you will become because of what is happening. The storm does not determine the value of the mountain. The way the mountain remains standing reveals its true nature. When there is chaos within you, the world needs only a small disturbance to make you collapse. When there is discipline, clarity, and responsibility within you, circumstances cannot easily steal your direction. Therefore, before you attempt to conquer the world, learn to conquer yourself. Before you search for strength outside yourself, build a mind that cannot be easily bribed by comfort, defeated by fear, or shaken by the opinions of the crowd. This battle has no audience, no applause, and no immediate reward. But every time you overcome yourself, even through one small decision, you place another stone in the foundation of your freedom. One day, you will realize that the person who stood in your way for the longest time is also the person who can open the door to your future. And once you understand that the greatest battle is fought within, the next question becomes unavoidable. What can you build inside yourself that will remain steady when emotions change and circumstances become difficult? The answer begins with something simple: the promises you make to yourself. Most people believe confidence comes from success, praise, talent, or recognition. But real confidence is built long before anyone sees the result. It is built in quiet moments, when no one is watching, when there is no reward, when the only witness is the person in the mirror. Every time you tell yourself that you will wake up early and you do it, you place one stone in the foundation of trust. Every time you say you will finish the work and you finish it, even when you are tired, you strengthen the bond between your word and your identity. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, your mind begins to understand that you are someone who can be relied upon. This is how character is formed, not through dramatic declarations, but through small acts of integrity repeated until they become part of who you are. The tragedy is that many people break promises to themselves so often that they stop believing their own words. They say tomorrow will be different, but tomorrow arrives and the same excuses return. They set goals when they feel inspired, then abandon them when the emotion disappears. Slowly, without noticing, they teach themselves that their intentions are weak, that their commitments are temporary, and that their own voice cannot be trusted. This is why some people lack confidence even when they have talent. Deep inside, they remember every promise they abandoned. They remember every time they chose the easy path after declaring that they wanted a better life. The mind keeps a record. It may forget the exact day, but it remembers the pattern. Self-respect is not created by repeating positive words while continuing to betray your own decisions. Self-respect grows when your actions become evidence that your word has weight. Begin with something small enough to keep, but meaningful enough to matter. Wake up when you said you would wake up. Complete the task you promised to complete. Train when no one expects you to train. Put the phone away when you decided to focus. Speak with restraint when anger asks you to react. These actions may appear insignificant, but they are not small. They are votes for the person you are becoming. Each choice says, "This is who I am." Each repetition strengthens that identity. A strong life is not built by making enormous promises. It is built by keeping clear ones. Do not promise yourself that you will transform everything overnight. That kind of promise is often another form of excitement without discipline. Promise one action, then complete it. Promise 1 hour of focus, then protect it. Promise one day without excuses, then live it fully. The foundation must be built stone by stone, because anything built too quickly can collapse just as quickly. When you keep a promise to yourself, you do more than finish a task. You create internal alignment. Your thoughts, words, and actions begin to move in the same direction. This alignment creates power. A divided person wastes energy arguing with themselves. One part wants growth. Another part seeks comfort. One part speaks of purpose. Another part obeys fear. But when your word and your action become one, hesitation loses its control. You no longer need constant motivation because trust has replaced negotiation. You know that when you decide, you move. You know that when difficulty appears, you remain. You know that when temptation calls, your purpose speaks louder. This is the beginning of true inner strength, not the strength that needs to be announced, but the strength that can be felt in the way you carry yourself, in the calmness of your decisions, and in the consistency of your actions. The world may not notice your first promise, your first early morning, your first completed task, or your first victory over distraction. But you will notice, your mind will notice, and with every promise kept, The person in the mirror will become someone you respect. That respect will become confidence. That confidence will become discipline. And that discipline will prepare you for the next truth. Potential means nothing until it is transformed into execution. Potential means nothing until it is transformed into execution. And this is where many people lose the future. They claim to desire. They admire what they could become. They speak about what they are capable of doing. They imagine the life they might build. But imagination without disciplined action is only a comfortable illusion. The world does not reward what exists inside your mind. It responds to what you bring into reality. It does not measure the strength of your intentions. It measures the weight of your actions. You may have intelligence, talent, ambition, and opportunity. But if you cannot command yourself to act consistently, those gifts will remain unused. A sharp sword has no value if it never leaves its sheath. A seed may contain the promise of a forest, but without soil, pressure, time, and growth, it remains only a seed. This is why a person of average ability with strong discipline will often surpass a gifted person who depends on inspiration. Talent may create a strong beginning, but discipline determines who continues when the excitement disappears. The talented person may move quickly when the path is easy, but the disciplined person keeps moving when the path becomes repetitive, painful, and uncertain. One waits to feel ready. The other begins before readiness arrives. One negotiates with discomfort. The other accepts discomfort as part of the work. One protects the image of potential. The other risks failure in order to produce results. Execution is not glamorous. It is often quiet, repetitive, and invisible. It is returning to the task after the first excitement has faded. It is correcting the same weakness again and again. It is doing the work when there is no praise, no recognition, and no guarantee that the result will come quickly. This is where character is tested. Anyone can speak with confidence before the work begins. Anyone can feel powerful while setting a goal, but the truth appears in the hours that follow. When resistance enters, when fatigue grows, when doubt whispers that the effort is not worth it, in those moments, discipline must become stronger than emotion. You do not need to hate the work, but you must stop requiring the work to feel good before you do it. Your responsibility is not to control every feeling. Your responsibility is to complete what your purpose requires. The mind will offer excuses with intelligence. It will say that today is not the right day, that your energy is too low, that you need a better plan, that you should wait until conditions improve. Some excuses sound reasonable, and that is why they are dangerous. They do not always arrive as weakness. They often arrive disguised as logic. But every delay has a cost. Every task avoided becomes heavier. Every opportunity ignored teaches the mind to retreat. Every unfinished commitment weakens the identity you worked to build. The answer is not endless planning. The answer is movement. Begin with the next necessary action. Do not stare at the entire mountain and become paralyzed by its size. Place your attention on the next step. Then the next. Progress becomes possible when action becomes specific. Write the page. Make the call. Complete the training. Study the lesson. Remove the distraction. Finish what is in front of you. Discipline is not a dramatic personality trait. It is the repeated decision to do what must be done after the desire to do it has disappeared. Over time, this decision changes you. The work becomes less dependent on mood. Your focus becomes sharper. Your standards become clearer. Your identity becomes stronger because it is supported by evidence. You no longer need to tell yourself that you are capable. Your completed work proves it. You no longer need to seek confidence from the opinions of others. Your consistency becomes its source. This is the difference between dreaming about a future and constructing one. Dreams show you a direction, but execution builds the road. Potential may open the door, but discipline carries you through it. The world is filled with people who could have become more, but there are far fewer who were willing to endure the repetition required to become it. Do not allow your ability to become a story about what might have happened. Turn it into action. Turn action into consistency. Turn consistency into results. And understand that the moment you choose execution, you also choose discomfort. Because every meaningful transformation asks you to leave something familiar behind. That is where the next decision begins. Not whether pain can be avoided, but which kind of pain you are willing to carry. Every meaningful transformation asks you to leave something familiar behind. And that is why growth always brings discomfort. The question is not whether you will experience pain. The question is which pain you are willing to choose. You can choose the pain of discipline now, or you can carry the pain of regret later. One pain demands effort in the present. The other follows you into the future. One strengthens your character. The other slowly weakens your spirit. Most people try to avoid both, but avoidance is also a choice, and it always leads toward regret. When you refuse the discomfort of waking early, you accept the heavier discomfort of falling behind. When you avoid the pain of honest self-examination, you accept the pain of repeating the same mistakes. When you run from difficult work, you accept the pain of watching opportunities disappear. The pain of discipline is temporary and purposeful. It appears when you say no to comfort, when you continue after motivation fades, when you face the weakness you once tried to hide. It may feel heavy in the moment, but it leaves behind strength. The pain of regret is different. It grows quietly. It begins as a small disappointment, then becomes frustration, bitterness, and the silent knowledge that you abandoned what you were capable of becoming. Discipline asks for a price, but regret collects interest. Every delayed decision makes the future cost greater. Every excuse repeated becomes a stronger habit. Every time you choose comfort over purpose, the next choice becomes more difficult. This is why the path of least resistance often becomes the path of greatest suffering. Comfort feels kind at first, but if obeyed too often, it becomes a cage. It protects you from effort, but it also protects you from growth. It keeps you safe from failure, but it also keeps you far from achievement. The disciplined person understands this. They do not worship pain. They use it. They know that discomfort is not always a warning to stop. Sometimes it is evidence that the old self is being challenged. The body grows through resistance. The mind grows through difficulty. Character grows when you remain present in moments that once made you escape. This does not mean you must destroy yourself through endless pressure. It means you must learn the difference between pain that damages you and pain that develops you. One leaves you smaller, the other expands your capacity. One comes from betrayal of your values. The other comes from living according to them. There will be mornings when discipline feels cruel. There will be nights when the easier path seems reasonable. There will be moments when your mind asks why you must continue. What? In those moments, remember that you are not choosing between comfort and pain. You are choosing between two forms of pain, one that builds your future and one that destroys it slowly. The discomfort of training passes. The discomfort of learning passes. The discomfort of saying no passes. The discomfort of beginning again passes. But the regret of knowing you surrendered when you could have continued can remain for years. You do not need to become fearless. You need to become willing to feel tired and still act, willing to feel uncertain and still move, willing to be misunderstood while protecting the standards that shape your life. Courage is not the absence of discomfort. It is the decision that your purpose matters more than your temporary feelings. Each time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, something inside you becomes more stable. Your mind learns that discomfort cannot command you. Your emotions learn that they are visitors, not rulers. Your identity becomes rooted in action rather than convenience. This is how freedom is built. Not by removing every obstacle, but by becoming someone who can walk through obstacles without losing direction. Choose the pain that teaches you. Choose the struggle that prepares you. Choose the sacrifice that makes tomorrow lighter. And when progress seems slow, do not mistake invisibility for failure, because the smallest discipline choices are already collecting beneath the surface, waiting to reveal the power of what you repeat each day. The smallest discipline choices are already collecting beneath the surface. And this is where most people misunderstand progress. They expect transformation to arrive with noise. They look for dramatic evidence, immediate results, and visible proof that their effort is working. When nothing appears quickly, they assume nothing is changing. They stop before the process has time to reveal itself. But growth rarely announces its beginning. A seed does not break the ground on the day it is planted. For a long time, all of its work happens in darkness. Roots spread before branches rise. Strength develops before results become visible. Your habits follow the same law. One focused hour may not change your career. One training session may not transform your body. One disciplined morning may not rebuild your life. But these actions were never meant to stand alone. Their power comes from repetition. Improvement by 1% may seem too small to matter today, but repeated over time, it changes the direction of your entire life. The mistake is believing that small means meaningless. A small action repeated becomes a pattern. A pattern repeated becomes a habit. A habit repeated becomes an identity. An identity lived consistently becomes a destiny. This is the power of accumulation. Every day, you are adding something to your future, even when you cannot see it. You are adding focus or distraction. You are adding courage or avoidance. You are adding discipline or weakness. Nothing is neutral when it is repeated. The hour wasted today may feel harmless, but repeated for months, it becomes lost opportunity. The page written today may feel insignificant, but repeated for months, it becomes a book. The decision to train may feel small, but repeated for years, it becomes strength. Time does not create transformation by itself. Time only multiplies what you repeatedly give it. If you give time excuses, il multiplie regret. If you give time disciplined action, it multiplies capability. This is why patience is not passive. Patience means continuing to work while the evidence is still invisible. It means trusting the process without demanding constant reassurance. The farmer does not dig up the seed every morning to check whether it is growing. The farmer prepares the soil provides water, protects the field, and allows time to complete what consistency has begun. You must learn to work in the same way. Stop measuring your progress only by what can be seen. Measure it by the promises you kept. Measure it by the distractions you resisted. Measure it by the number of times you returned after failure. Some days, your 1% will be a powerful effort. Other days, it will simply mean refusing to move backward. Both matter. Consistency does not require perfection. It requires return. You may miss a day, lose focus, or fall into an old pattern. The danger is not the mistake. The danger is allowing one mistake to become permission for another. Return quickly. Do not turn a moment of weakness into a new identity. The disciplined person is not someone who never falls. The disciplined person is someone who does not remain on the ground. Progress becomes unstoppable when recovery becomes immediate. Focus on making the next decision better than the last one. Read one more page. Practice one more movement. Remove one unnecessary distraction. Speak one honest sentence. Complete one task before beginning another. These choices may not impress anyone, and that is part of their value. They train you to work without applause. They teach you that the purpose of action is not to appear successful, but to become capable. Over time, the invisible begins to become visible. Your mind becomes calmer because it has learned focus. Your body becomes stronger because it has adapted to resistance. Your confidence becomes deeper because it is supported by evidence. People may call the result sudden, but you will know that nothing about it was sudden. They are seeing the harvest, not the seasons of planting. They are seeing the strength, not the mornings of resistance. They are seeing the person you became, not the thousands of decisions that built that person. Do not despise the small beginning. Protect it, repeat it, allow it to compound. The mountain is not climbed in one heroic movement. It is climbed through steps that often feel ordinary. Keep taking those steps, because when small effort meets time and discipline, it becomes a force that can reshape your life. And as that force grows, the pressure you once feared will no longer appear as something sent to break you, but as the very condition that prepares you to become stronger. As your discipline grows, the pressure you once feared begins to reveal a different purpose. What once appeared to be an obstacle starts to become a teacher. What once felt like punishment begins to look like preparation. Most people judge difficulty too quickly. The moment life becomes heavy, they assume something has gone wrong. They believe the correct path should feel smooth, clear, and comfortable. But comfort cannot develop every part of you. There are strengths that can only be awakened by resistance. There are truths that can only be understood after disappointment. There are levels of maturity that cannot be reached without carrying weight. A diamond is not formed in open air. It is created deep beneath the surface, where darkness, time, and pressure work together. Human character is shaped in a similar way. Pressure does not automatically make you stronger. It reveals what is weak, what is unstable, and what still requires training. This revelation can be painful, but it is also valuable. You cannot strengthen what you refuse to see. When hardship exposes your impatience, it gives you the opportunity to build endurance. When rejection exposes your need for approval, it gives you the opportunity to develop self-respect. When failure exposes the limits of your preparation, it gives you the opportunity to become more capable. The event itself does not decide whether you are destroyed or developed. Your response gives the event its meaning. Two people can face the same storm and leave it as different human beings. One becomes bitter because the storm did not respect their plans. The other becomes wiser because the storm revealed where their foundation was weak. One asks why life is against them. The other asks what life is trying to teach them. This difference in perspective changes everything. You are not responsible for every difficulty that enters your life, but you are responsible for what that difficulty is allowed to create within you. Pain can become resentment, or it can become understanding. Failure can become shame, or it can become instruction. Pressure can become panic, or it can become focus. The raw material may be the same, but the final form depends on how you work with it. This does not mean pretending that suffering feels good. It does not mean denying exhaustion, grief, or disappointment. Strength is not built through emotional dishonesty. You must feel what is present, but you do not have to surrender your identity to it. Sit with the discomfort long enough to understand it. Ask what it is exposing. Ask what must be released, what must be strengthened, and what must be learned. A difficult season often removes illusions that comfort allowed you to keep. It shows you which relationships were based on convenience. It shows you which goals were only fantasies. It shows you whether your discipline was real